Comparisons like these always come with a cost. One of these manufacturers may never send me anything again. And it's fine, you see, because I'm not a rep. I'm here to say what needs to be said. And what needs to be said is I tested both of these bases. I pushed both and noticed an odd behavior on the Evo Pro. With a lighter rim, it performs well, incredibly well. It is smooth, it is responsive, but with a heavier rim, it feels sluggish, as if the motor is having a hard time rotating it. Now just to clarify, by a heavier rim, I mean GT1's round rim bolted to Neo X hub. The overall weight is roughly 2.4 kilos. And a light rim is this exact rim but with Pokorny Rally hub instead of Neo X hub, which weighs about 1.7-1.8 kilos. So I used this rim to play Richard Burns Rally and Automobilista 2, and I felt that the force feedback is a bit, well, sluggish. So I ran multiple synthetic step tests with both heavy and light rim, exported the CSV files, ran it on Python for an average run graph, and got myself some data to share with you. So a step test lasts 2.5 seconds, and the wheel quickly rotates one side and then the other, which is why the velocity on y-axis is both positive and negative, representing clockwise and anti-clockwise rotation. On x-axis, you have time from 0 to 2.5 seconds. Now any base will perform well with a light rim, basic physics, but not all perform well with a heavier rim. Evo Pro did well with a light rim. It reacts faster to commands with quicker accelerations and decelerations, but at the cost of increased sensitivity and more oscillations, which is why there is a bit of wave formation here. This happens because of Evo Pro's design. It's a byproduct of having high acceleration and super low inertia rotor. The system is under-dampened. You know how when a wheel is too eager to return to center, that's lack of damping. A little bit of it makes the entire movement a bit smoother. Too much of it and then it'll be too slow to respond. Now, just to be clear, inertia also plays a role, but it's mainly about damping. In both cases, oscillatory behavior is evident and a pattern can be seen. It might appear quite minimal. For casuals, it might be okay. But for people looking to have a competitive edge, yes, the sluggishness can be felt quite easily. So after seeing how Evo behaved with both of the rims, I decided to see if the older Alpha models would exhibit similar behavior. No, it does not. Performance with both rims were almost identical. Yes, the lighter rim gets up to speed a touch quicker because, again, physics. But even with the heavier rim, the Alpha U does not struggle. There's no sluggishness. And unlike Evo Pro, there's barely any oscillation. When removing deviations, you can see that there is a touch of oscillation on the Alpha U, but with Evo Pro, the oscillations are quite heavy. Sure, the Evo Pro reaches a higher peak velocity, but like I mentioned, this responsiveness has a cost. Alpha U is doing quite well here. This tells me that the Alpha U's firmware isn't brute forcing the torque, it's actually compensating for the inertia quite well. That's something I did not expect from a product that came out years ago, but here we are. Next, I went ahead to see if Conspit would exhibit this behavior. And before I show you that, here's a comparison of the best possible result between both bases. When I say best, I mean one single result where everything aligned: quickest response, best stability, tightest deviation, etc. Evo still retains its oscillating behavior. And remember, this graph shows the best possible result. While it does reach a higher peak velocity, the overshoots are wild. It's a sign of instability. It's like the motor is saying more power needed to rotate the rim. And when it happens, the motor goes like, no, too far, dial it back. And the whole process repeats itself, making it harder to get a consistent result. Conspit, on the other hand, has a slightly lower peak velocity, but is far more smoother. Each step brings in a clean and stable response, almost plateau-like. The result is that Conspit will be able to offer more predictability. But the system does not always perform at its best, so here's what majority of the people will experience. And what's really standing out is that the core behavior we saw right now still holds up. And if anything, it becomes clearer when looking at the averages. Evo Pro continues to have more frequent overshoots and oscillations. Conspit, again with slightly lower peak velocity, has a much smoother overall response with fewer and non-existent oscillations. The torque delivery is much more stable and it does not punch its way. Interestingly, Conspit's velocity wears off more gradually, which helps keep things a bit more stable and predictable. So even when we factor in the average run, the distinction is clear. Evo Pro is fast, undeniably fast, but unstable, while Conspit is steady and much more consistent. When comparing all three together, Evo Pro is clearly the fastest. But like I mentioned multiple times, that speed comes with a cost, making it less stable or less predictable. Alpha U is the slowest, but surprisingly the most stable out of the three. And Conspit sits right in the middle, balancing power and control. Now, the whole point of showcasing all of that data was not to pick a clear winner, but to highlight how different manufacturers prioritize different things when designing a wheelbase. The data that I provided should help you pick one depending on your driving style. Evo Pro, to me, its responsiveness was too much to handle. Trying to tame it with added friction, damper and inertia not only felt wrong, it felt like going against what the wheelbase was originally designed to do. This is a super high acceleration, low inertia design. Restricting that to my preferences felt very odd, like buying a Bugatti and then turning it into an, off-roader. What's even the point? But if you ask me, in my honest opinion, this design wasn't really needed. In trying to chase something perfect or something extreme, significant and meaningful trade-offs had to be made. I honestly think they had it right with the older Alpha bases. But again, that is my opinion. I do not speak for everyone. The Evo Pro is a great base, but only if you can tame that responsiveness. If you can, that says more about you as a driver and what you value in a base. Now, Conspit is a different story. It has slightly lower peak velocity, which could be mistaken for sluggishness, but it's not. It's just that Evo Pro's acceleration is absurdly fast, fastest that I have tested so far. Conspit chose to go for stability and predictability. If you are someone who values that and consistency and does not want to second guess what the car is going to do next, their approach makes a whole lot of sense. Now, with all of this out of the way, take it away. Let's talk about the feel. Starting with the Evo Pro. While this base has plenty of detail and does not lack anything obvious that the average user would point out, I personally had a hard time staying consistent with it. And that's odd, because on an older beta firmware, 2.05, 7 or 9, I can't quite recall exactly, I never had this issue. I used to be able to drive consistently on that. So it could be that something major was changed, resulting in, this. I tested both bases on Automobilista 2 and pushed very hard. On Evo Pro, the best time I could get was 2 minute 5.168 with an average lap time of 2 minutes 7.1. Getting this record was incredibly frustrating as I was unable to maintain consistency. One lap I would be getting 2 minute 5.5, the very next 2 minute 7, or I would just crash. With Conspit, the best I got was 2 minute 4.620 with an average lap time of 2 minute 5.3. I was far more consistent, making almost no mistakes. There was no second guessing. That inconsistency with Evo Pro carried over into other sims as well. Except ACC. Their both bases performed incredibly well, almost impossible to tell them apart. Now, to be fair, I play with minimal filtering, and the Evo Pro, that makes things twitchy. You can always add damping and friction to calm it down, but in my experience, doing so takes away a lot of responsiveness. It dulls the edge that the base was clearly designed to have. In Rally, both performed well, but it is Conspit once again which I prefer because it has peaks, lows and mids quite contained. Evo Pro does well too, but I had to add a little bit of dampening to stabilize it. On paper, both the bases have strong specs, but in terms of raw feel, they are a bit apart. Not apart enough to declare a clear winner, but just enough to influence buying decision. Now on to quick release. Simagic uses the tried and tested NRG style quick release. Conspit uses an F1 style quick release. They both do a great job, but are quite different from an engineering standpoint. NRG has auto locking and relies on a ball lock detent mechanism. It is quick, easy to mount and dismount, but may develop a little bit of play over time. I have been using this for over 3 years now, still works like day one, nothing happened. Conspit's F1 inspired quick release has manual locking, meaning you can't simply push it to have it locked. You have to pull this collar to retract the ball bearings, and then once the prongs align, you let go of the collar. The whole design revolves around the idea that there should be zero play between these recessed channels and prongs, so the torque can be carried with minimal loss. Taking the rim out can be a bit of a challenge, but it is the byproduct of the machining. If it were easier to remove, the design would fall apart. From an engineering standpoint, I love this more than the NRG. If this quick release is something which is not your cup of tea, I have news for you. Conspit might be working on a separate optional quick release. I don't have much info on it, but as soon as I get it, I'll share it on my Discord server. Link in description. Also, the 300 GT has wireless SIM hub supports with the Ares Platinum. GT Neo requires a tape hack as a temporary measure. I believe they are working on something. As for the software, nothing groundbreaking here. I have seen SimPro Manager evolve into what it is today, and I like what Simagic has done. From proper terminologies to baked-in guide and instructions, it's really great. Conspit Link is still new. It's being developed. It gets the job done, no problem. It just needs slightly easier terminologies to get the message across because in its current form, it is very confusing. It also gives you a couple of overlays which you can use while driving. Both softwares are good, but Simagic's is more mature and refined. But again, it is software, so it can always be fixed. So, which is a better base? I would say it depends on what you want. If I were buying my first field base, I would go for Simagic. No questions asked. They have got a solid track record, their software is great, the ecosystem is well built. But I am not a first time buyer. I have tested both, I have pushed both, and for me, it is Ares every single time. Not because there is something wrong with this base or this is a bad base. It's not. It's a very good base. It just does not feel like Simagic's best work. And I have seen what their best looks like. The P1000s, the GT Neo, the older Alpha bases. This does not quite belong in the same league. And I hope Simagic knows that too. My decision for picking Ares over this is only about force feedback. This just feels right. It feels like a worthy and true successor to my Alpha U. There you have it, Conspit Ares Platinum versus Simagic Evo Pro. I've been the Napman and may the downforce be with you.